Hey, welcome back, everybody, once again to Every Week English with Josh Golson. If you would like a lesson, that sort of thing, or an interview, reach out to me at everyweekenglish at outlook.com, right? And I'll be right back to you, get right back to you. Otherwise, this week we are talking about sports and superstitions. So that means the vocab of it, past tenses, as well, of course, looking at our idioms. So first off, we've got the best thing since sliced bread, which is something that is really awesome, right? So for example, my new Metro card is the best thing since sliced bread. Um, the next one, to bite off more than you can chew, right? Which means to try something that is too difficult for you and you can't possibly succeed. So, for example, Ulysses bit off more than he could chew when he did not listen to Circe talking about his future. It was too difficult for him, and it took him like 20 years to get home, also. And the last one, to play it by ear, right, or play by the ear, which means to improvise or not make any concrete plans. So on a typical weekend, I play it by ear, see what my friends are up to, see if they are available or not, that sort of thing. All good idioms this week. Excellent. And then taking a look at our book, this will be Chapter 5, Sporting Superstitions. In which sport can you do the butterfly? It's swimming. Is there a shot called a slam dunk? It's basketball when you hop up and you throw it into the hoop. Is the person who throws the ball called the pitcher? Of course, a pitcher is baseball. The person who catches the ball is a catcher. Are there two teams of 15 people and a ball that isn't round? I think that's rugby. Do you hit the ball over a net on a table? That would be ping pong or table tennis. Your choice of words, really. It's the same thing. What's quite interesting, my grandmother, so my mother's mother, used to be quite a very good table tennis player. And we still have cutouts from the news over in Virginia saying, like, Irene Young, fantastic table tennis player. It's sort of cool. The joke was that during Nixon's ping pong diplomacy, she was the one playing the ping pong, right? And Nixon was the one doing diplomacy. Now, do players walk about 8 kilometers during a game and never run? The sport of the rich, right? That would be golf, or one of the sports of the rich. There's quite a bit. I was talking to Gabe, all right? He studied economics at university. It was quite interesting. He said another one like this is skiing, right? So he was saying quite often people don't actually enjoy skiing. They just go there to socialize with people of their own wealth bracket or wealth circle. I thought that was quite interesting. Golf, I've heard people do enjoy it. It seems like fun. It seems mostly, though, about socializing, right? And about making business deals. Another fun sport for the rich is fencing. That's a cool one. I tried fencing when I was a kid, but I didn't stick with it. Likewise, in my life, it was a bit like that when I was a kid, where I tried something, got into it, and then gave up. So that was playing violin, and then fencing, and then historical fencing. Something else I wish that I had stuck with. Because nowadays I see videos for historical fencing. It's quite cool. And is good at exercise. Then 2 teams of 6 who play on ice. It's hockey. Hockey is a very cool game. Lots of Europeans and Americans play it. which makes sense. It's places where it's cold and you can just go out on the ice. I once taught a hockey coach. He was a really cool guy. Basically, he said, stop drinking, stop smoking, start running. Just he put things very simply, but he is an IT developer as far as I know, for a startup in Latvia, which is really cool. Um, and he was studying to get his doctorates even at I think UC Berkeley, things like that. Really cool guy, very philosophical. Um, he used to say to me, Josh, you got to come over. We'll have a drink together. We'll talk about life. Very cool guy. Um, and then four main tournaments: Melbourne, Paris, London, and New York. That's tennis, of course. Talked a bit about tennis last time. Different activities: running, high jump, javelin, and so on. That's things like long jump, pole jumping, also. In American English, we call this track and field. British English, I think we just call it athletics. Right? I used to do the long jump, which is you stand still, you sort of rock back and forth, and you see as far as you can jump. Um, when I say I used to do, I probably shouldn't use used to, but I did it like once, right? Once or twice. That's about it. Have Brazil won more World Cups than any other country? That, of course, would be soccer, right? As Americans say, or football, as the rest of the world says. Of course, in America, we have our own football, which is a bit like rugby with quite a lot more padding. And then to go on to some of these speaking questions, do you like sport? I would say no. So British English, it's interesting. They don't make this plural, right? They just say sport. American English, we say sports because there are different kinds of sports. So it makes more sense in American English. But I had to do a couple of sports at school, which was like track and field, long jumping, of course, PE, which is physical education. That was required in high school. I think we had 2 or 3 years of it. Um, and we had certain standards that we had to meet, like you have to do 20 push-ups, you have to do 20 sit-ups, that sort of thing. Um, one thing that always stuck out to me was when I was running the mile, right? So a mile is about 1.6, 1.7 kilometers. And I think you had to do it in under 12 minutes to make the cutoff. And at most American high schools, you have a football field and you have a track that goes around the football field. Hence the name, track and field. And I still remember when I was running, it was like 11 minutes and everybody else had finished. And all my buddies there, they were like, yeah, you can do it. Really encouraging. And I made it in exactly at the cutoff at 11 minutes and 55 seconds. So that was fun. I'd say nowadays, what sports do I do? I guess I go running just to lose weight. Like I said last time, 3 times a week, 5, 6 kilometers, push-ups, sit-ups. I do curls. That's just standard lifting weights with your arms. Sometimes I do the bench press also. Likewise, rowing machine is quite good. Um, Different sorts of machines to lift weights are also nice. Um, and yeah, I find as a part of my schedule, I do quite enjoy doing those things. Um, and as many people will tell you, if you want the best natural high, just go running, right? It makes you happy, it lifts your mood, it's good for your health, all these sorts of things. And when it is warmer outside, of course, I was running outside also. Um, and, now that I'm an adult, I am trying to systematically do mostly everything. So, for example, like Warhammer, you could sort of count it as a sport, but um, there are tournaments, and there was a worldwide championship for Warhammer. It's quite high level, but for that, basically, you're standing all day and moving around miniatures, right? Toy soldiers on the table, rolling dice also. It is quite good exercise just standing up. Um, and so when I got into that, I built my list. I said, this is the best, this is the cheapest way to get back into the hobby. And I did it, right? Very systematized. And I did it to completion, like I said last time. Likewise with running. I did some research, I watched a couple of videos. I got a running kit, as the British call it, or like a just running clothes, as Americans call it. So running shorts and things that don't absorb sweat. So typically things that are not cotton. And I also got some nice shoes, which my parents got me for my 26th birthday, which I'm still quite grateful for. They're Hoka running shoes, really nice. Um, Highly recommend them, especially if you have never run before. I teach quite a few sportsmen. For example, I teach a guy who is an amateur bicyclist. So he bikes races and he comes in the top 50 quite often. A very cool guy. I have taught him for almost around 3 years now. Yeah, it's quite solid. And, he's always giving me advice how to do things. So he says, Josh, when you're running, run at least for 40 minutes and keep your heart rate above 140 beats per minute. And that's how you lose weight. Um, Same with watching your diet. That's another thing that the hockey coach who I used to teach recommended. He said, like, see how long you can go without eating because it'd be surprising that you aren't hungry. And he's right. Like, I think nowadays, a lot of us don't actually experience that feeling of hunger, or at least I haven't really felt those what we call pangs. So it's PANGS, hunger pangs. Um, so I do like doing exercise. I don't think I'm fit, but I would like to get fitter. Currently, I'm 75.4 kilos. I think it's 165 pounds, and you divide that by 2.2. Yeah, 75.4, which is pretty much the lightest I have been. So with weight, we talk heavy, we talk light, we talk fat, we talk skinny. There's another two good words, which is stocky, which means short and fat, and lanky, which means tall and skinny. And overweight, obese, these different sorts of things. So I'm a little bit overweight now. I quite typically I just say I'm fat, right? It depends on the person, really. Um, do your family and friends like sport? Yeah, I'd say so. My parents are really into tennis. My brother was. Um, my family, my wife, she goes to the gym. She gets a personal trainer twice a week. It's quite awesome. And she has really gotten into it. Um, any sports you don't mind watching on TV. So I think this is a Scandinavian, Baltic, and Russian thing. I like watching the biathlon. Um, and my wife and her family got me into that. But the biathlon is skiing, cross-country skiing, so not downhill too much, and then shooting, right? And that bicyclist I just talked about, he told me last week that they actually shoot 22s, right? So .22 caliber. And I was really surprised because I had thought it was air rifles that they were shooting. But turns out it's 22s. 22s are a very small caliber gun. Quite often you use it to hunt squirrels in the United States, which is quite interesting. Um, what sports do you hate watching on TV? I think like soccer, just it's quite boring to me. You see these people, they pass around a ball and that's it. Um, my father-in-law is a really big fan of soccer. He wears the Spartak gear. He's got scarves and the shirts and stuff also. My dad is a big fan of football. Um, I can sort of get into it for just, the tradition. You sit around with the guys, you drink a beer, and you sort of chill for like hour and a half. Typically in America, there's football Sundays, and so there you're chilling for the whole day. And they actually did planned it on Sunday because they expected you to go to church in the morning, and then afterwards in the afternoon, they play a bunch of football games. And so after you're tired from church, you just chill. You watch football games. Um, Unfortunately, in the most recent times, like past couple of years, football and sports in general have become politicized. So probably you guys will have noticed like people kneeling to support what is it, Black Looters Matter, and other organizations which have been proven to be a scam, basically, where the founders took millions of dollars and they bought real estate with it. It's pretty wild, actually. Such a big scam they pulled on everyone. Um, and so a lot of the players would protest, quote unquote, even though they made millions of dollars, right? Um, Also, was quite interesting is you can see the hypocrisy of it, especially it was when they had the World Cup in, I think, Qatar. And of course, Qatar is a Muslim country, and just ask your Muslim friends what they think of homosexuals and what the Quran says to do with homosexuals. Um, and so that was quite a big scandal also, as the players who normally protest for homosexuality, um, or sodomy, basically, they sort of swallowed it, right? No pun intended. And they just played the game as usual because it's illegal over in Muslim countries. Um, have you ever found a sporting event exciting? I went to one hockey cup or one hockey match back in 2018, and that was quite exciting in Moscow, where they got out these big warlike drums and they started playing, sort of like out of Lord of the Rings. That was a lot of fun. Um, are there good sports facilities in town? Yeah, quite a bit. There's even like a swimming pool building where you can go swimming in winter, and it's got tons of different pools, water slides, um, different saunas, different steam rooms, and it's all inside. Basically, it's this huge complex. It's really cool. Um, do you think physical education should be optional or compulsory at school? I think it should be compulsory, and they should bring back higher standards, probably. Do you think there is too much or not enough sport on TV? Um, I don't watch regular TV, so I don't actually know, right? But taking a look at sporting vocabulary, we've got such easy ones as captain, the person in charge of a team, coach, the person who trains a team. Likewise, a coach is a fancy big bus that goes across countries. Also, a coach is a carriage or train wagon. So it has a couple of different meanings. Fans or fanatics are people who really love the game. So my father-in-law, he is a fan of soccer, right? Players is people who play. A referee or an umpire is the person who judges a game, make sure that both sides play by the rules. Spectators or the crowd, that's people who watch a game in person. Sports hall is like a gym, basically. Sometimes there's basketball courts there, that sort of thing. Stadium is typically where a soccer or football field is, and of course a team is one side versus the other. Likewise, we've got some more nouns to go with this. So tennis, basketball court, football, rugby, hockey pitch, swimming, diving pool, athletics. So I would normally say athletics field, but here it would be an athletics track, pretty much. That's where the name track and field comes from. Formula One, motorcycling circuit, golf course, ski slope. Right? A slope is anything that goes downhill. Now verbs. So we've got about 4 basic verbs that goes with sports. That's beat, beat, beat. Or beat, beat, beaten, if you're American. So 2 players go up against each other. Let's say Josh and Joseph. And then Josh beats Joseph. That means Josh won and Joseph lost, right? And then when you're describing what happens afterwards, you use win. So it's win, won, won. So in that case, Josh won. And lose, it goes lose, lost, lost for this one. There's another very similar word with 2 O's, which is loose, instead of lose. To loose means to let something go, typically with a twang. So for example, if you're shooting a bow and arrow, you loose the arrow. To draw, you can also draw an arrow, draw a sword, or draw a weapon. You can also, that means to take out one of those things. You can also physically draw on a piece of paper. That's what kids do. You can draw a castle. You can draw on computers. And in a sports context, a draw is a tie. So it goes draw, drew, drawn. Right? And let's say Josh and Joseph, they got 0-0. So they drew, right? And then there's a couple of phrasal verbs. So we've got get fit, get injured, kick, score, throw, and train. Of course, get injured, another way to say it in Europe is typically trauma. But in American English, we associate trauma with mental illness or mental injury. And to just get injured means you like broken arm or a leg, that sort of thing. To kick, you're using your leg to kick a ball, like in soccer. To score means that you kicked it into the goal. To throw is what a thrower does, right? In the classic American scene is a father throwing a baseball to his son, and the son pitching. Pitching is another way to say it, back. And of course, you go to trainings to get better at something. And you can train at anything. You can train at English. You can train at the gym. It's all contextual, right? Based on context. Some more phrasal verbs. It's to warm up, work out, to be sent off, and to be knocked out. To warm up means to do things like stretching, light exercise. To work out means to do your full exercise. So I work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I warm up on those times before I hop into the real deal. To be sent off means that you have to go sit down for a little bit. You have a penalty from the referee or umpire. And then to be knocked out means you are completely out of the game. So especially think about boxing. And with boxing, it's quite obvious. One boxer knocks out the other boxer. Quite interestingly, recently I heard about a new sport that I have never heard of, which is boxing chess. And so basically you do 3 minutes boxing round, and then you play 3 minutes chess, right? And so sometimes one is better at chess, sometimes one is better at boxing. And it's a student recommended it to me. It sounds quite cool. And because my friend Gabe, he is a chess teacher as well. Um, you know, he has thought about doing that also with me, which would be pretty cool. And then superstitions, there's lots of different ones, but it's things like crossing your fingers for good luck, knocking on wood. So in American English, we say, I hope nothing goes wrong, knock on wood, which just means good luck. You wear lucky socks, or lucky clothes, and you carry lucky charms, things like that. Likewise, superstitions, they come from a real realistic place. So, for example, Friday the 13th, in history, the Knights Templar, you know, the people who were protecting Christian pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land to worship, they were a monastic order and they were armed. Um, they were disbanded and made illegal in basically the 1300s, late 1200s by the Catholic Pope. And they controlled so many estates, and the Templars controlled all of the banking before banking was a thing throughout Europe, that this was a perfect opportunity for the rulers of these different European countries to either exile, which means to kick them out of their country and take their assets, take their money, take their land, or to kill them, right? And there's quite famous ones of the French burning Templars at the stake. The stake, stake, is a wooden pole, right? So, like Vlad the Impaler, also known as Dracula, he used to impale Ottomans on the stake, right? There was another recently, I was reading a book series about the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth in the 1600s, under Bogdan Khmelnytsky, and he did what was called the Cossack special. And the Cossack special was to impale somebody, pour pitch or oil over them, and is the Cossack torch, and then light them up. And this was such a gruesome, torturous way of dying that it really stands out to you. Like, there's some bad people out there. Uh, and also, it creates fear so that people don't fight back against you, right? But on Friday the 13th, the Catholic Pope made it illegal to be a Templar. And that's why Friday the 13th is so bad these days. Another one is to sit down before traveling. That's a superstition. I think originally it comes from you sit down to pray. Pray to God for good travels, good journeys. And then more pragmatically or more realistically, it became you sit down to think about, to make sure that you have everything, right? Another good one is you don't shake hands over the threshold or over the entrance door. Now, why do we shake hands? Originally, you shake hands to show that you don't have a weapon. You don't have a knife or a sword or a gun. You show the other person you are unarmed. And so if you shake hands over the doorway, you don't know if somebody else is waiting back there who can stab you. So the person on the outside can pull the person on the inside outside, and then his friend can stab that person. Right? That's a bit from Roman times. So quite often superstitions have a realistic reason. Last one would be basically whistling inside, right? So quite often you say, if you whistle inside, you will lose money, right? And I think the best explanation for this is basically, you can't tell kids, like, don't whistle, just don't whistle. They won't follow your orders. Instead, you have to give them a reason, and that is the biggest reason. But going into the grammar, we're taking a look at all the past tenses. So we've got past simple, which is a finished or repeated action in the past. Regular verbs, you just take it and add ed. You get two different auxiliary verbs, which is were for plural and was for singular. Don't forget about your irregular verbs. So for example, run, ran, ran, right? Every verb has three forms. Versus walk. Walk is regular, so it goes walk, walked, walk, right? Easy peasy. Go is another common irregular. It's go, went, gone, right? And when you're describing states, you say was, so he was in Lithuania. They were in Poland, that sort of thing. Now, past continuous, it's necessary to always include was or were plus verb ing. So this is for processes in the past, which are often interrupted. Now, the giveaway for past continuous is typically you see when, while, or as. So for example, what were you doing yesterday? I was driving when it started raining. So started is just past simple, but driving is the action that got interrupted. Or while I was watching TV, I heard a noise. So heard is past simple. It interrupts the process of watching TV. Sometimes you can use it for emphasis, but mostly it's used for the processes and for the beginning of a story or anecdote. Last but not least, and I'll say actually it is the least. It's the least common one. It's past perfect. So here you always have to have had plus your past participle. And we use these mostly for in media, so that's books, television shows, movies, for flashbacks, and in real life, it's for emphasis. Sometimes there's a difference in meaning. So for example, we've got two sentences. When John arrived, they went out. So John got there and they all left together. That's just past simple. Versus when John arrived, they had gone out. That means John got there, but all of his friends left, right? Everyone was already gone. You can use it for emphasis also, like I had taught all day, right? And so it's always used for an earlier event in the past. So I'll say all together, right? When you're telling a story, past continuous sets the scene. Past simple tells you what actions happened, what was going on, and then past perfect is for a flashback. It's what happened before the previous action. All right, so once again, this has been Josh Golson for Every Week English. If you like this, don't forget to rate it, leave a comment. I'll always answer. If you want an English lesson, if you want some books, right, check out the links in the description. Don't forget about those idioms, which are the best thing since sliced bread, bite off more than you can chew, and play it by ear. Otherwise, have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys next time.